We will now be beginning with the first panel of the day. The topic of discussion is the repercussions of the pandemic on the preschool segment. Kindly note the panel discussion floor would be open for a Q&A session later. Allow me to introduce the panelists to you. We have Ms. Shanthi Menon, the principal of Deens Academy, Bangalore, who will be chairing the session. As the principal founder of the Deens Academy in 2006, Ms. Shanthi Menon envisioned, molded, and created an environment of empowerment, not just for the students of the institution, but also for the teachers, staff, and the parent community of the Deens group of institutions. Being a multi-talented person herself, she embodies the spirit of the organization, which uses diverse skills of our multicultural environment to steer itself to the highest echelons of educational excellence. A university rank holder from Stella Maris College, Chennai, she holds a teaching and training diploma with distinction from the Cambridge University, UK, and a master's degree in education. She has worked in many prestigious institutions in Chennai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, and was also instrumental in setting up Gopalan International School in Bangalore before she co-founded the Deens Academy. Besides being an academician and educationist par excellence, Ms. Shanthi Menon is a trained performing artist, even as she dabbles in modeling, comparing shows, Carnatic music, and painting. A frequent speaker at prestigious educational conventions, she has been honored with awards and recognitions by illustrious organizations, the Iconic Leader Award from the Women's Economic Forum, and Shining Star Award by Abhinandana, to name a few. Welcome, ma'am. Can we have you on stage, please? Can we have a huge round of applause, please? Our next panelist is Mr. Vittal Bhandary, the founder and managing director of Learning Edge India Private Limited. Mr. Vittal Bhandary conceptualized the Little Ellie chain of preschools with a vision of nurturing great values in children, combining them harmoniously with early childhood education. It has taken years of single-minded focus, great passion, concerted effort, and deep understanding about the dynamics of childcare for him to lead an accomplished team of professionals in developing an organization whose prime focus is transforming the nature of learning in preschools, rebuilding the way that students are taught, remodeling the nature of classroom approach, and the future of education. His innovation, dedication, and phenomenal belief in providing a meaningful, experiential, and creative learning for the early learners so that they take with them experiences for a lifetime has led to a successful diversification of the business into Glentree Academy, a K-10 CBSE school, Ellie Childcare, a corporate daycare center, and Ellie at Home, a customized home learning program. Mr. Vittal Bhandary is continuing to make strides in his academic pursuit by combining high-quality teaching and materials with activity-based learning in providing a valuable preschool experience for children and parents. Welcome, sir. Can we have you on stage, please? Can we have a round of applause?
It gives me great pleasure to introduce our next panelist, Dr. Sk Rathor, founder and chairman and MD at SANFORT Group of Schools. Dr. Sk Rathor holds an MPhil and PhD in physics and MBA. He is the founding president of Early Childhood Care and Development Educators Association, a voluntary organization working for the welfare of early learners, educators, and parents. He is vice president of the Early Childhood Association and chairman of School Education Department, Center for Education Growth and Research. He started his entrepreneurial journey in 1995 with a little capital, and today he is known as one of the most successful entrepreneurs in school education. Dr. Sk Rathor is a TED speaker and is the most sought-after speaker on education and entrepreneurship in the country. He inspires and encourages thousands of people to realize their true potential and helps them to become successful entrepreneurs. Thousands of parents have benefited from his parenting workshops, Art of Parenting. He has received the Entrepreneur of the Year and the Most Successful Educationist in Early Childhood Education awards in the year 2016, Edpreneur of the Year in the year 2017, and India's Greatest Leaders 2017-18. His story was featured in a web series, Education Evangelist of India, on ForbesIndia.com. With a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome on stage Dr. Sk Rathor.
Our next panelist is Mr. Pritam Kumar Agarwal, the founder and director of Hello Kids. Mr. Pritam Kumar Agarwal is the founder of Hello Kids chain of preschools and Riverstone schools and the vice president and core committee member of ECA India. He started with the first Hello Kids preschool center at Bangalore in 2005 and currently runs a robust franchise network with over 690 preschools across India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. A passionate early childhood edupreneur with 15 plus years of experience, Mr. Pritam has traveled across the length and breadth of the country to understand the preschool industry in India. He is also the mentoring and strategic decision maker for Little Fingers, one of India's leading manufacturers of kids' furniture and PlayStation, Little Woods, Cracky Shoes, JB Marketing. He is a very active member of the Early Childhood Association India. Can we welcome Mr. Pritam Kumar Agarwal on stage, please? Over to Ms. Shanthi Menon to moderate the session.
Thank you. We seem to have a very close-knit audience, so this is going to be good fun. Our format is going to be our speakers will share their views and their thoughts and suggestions, and we then take questions from the audience. Let's try and make it as interactive. At the end of it, we'd all like to go back with some takeaways. So we thought the pandemic is on the wane. But personally, I think we have a larger pandemic that we're grappling with. That of the mental well-being of our students, their emotional, social skills being compromised, learning gaps being there, and on the other aspect, we have huge issues with the financial, infrastructural, staff, emotions, etc. So we have a whole lot of things that we are grappling with currently. Currently today, or rather right now today, our esteemed panel will be discussing the impact on preschoolers. So I have broken it up into 3 segments. We're going to be looking at the panelists speaking on 3 segments of the staff issues, infrastructural financial issues, and student issues. So without much ado, so that we have time to speak to you too, I'm going to carry on with Mr. Rathor, who will be addressing the financial and infrastructural issues that the preschool segment is impacted with. Over to you, Mr. Rathor.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. And I would like to thank Anil and Education Today for inviting me and giving me opportunity to share my experience of 2 decades in the education sector and 2 years in the pandemic time. So preschool is the sector which is most affected by pandemic as far as learning loss is concerned, earning loss is concerned, and job losses are concerned. So because we are the people who are catering to the youngest of the population of the country. So it was very difficult to make the parents understand education can happen online also for young children. And even we were not confident. Most of the early educators were not confident how it would happen. But it's proved every teacher worked very, very hard, and we delivered, one thing. Second, as far as the financials are concerned, lakhs and lakhs of preschool teachers become jobless. So there is a, if I talk about financial loss, there is a loss of GDP also. We contribute in the GDP of the country also. And preschool is, I can say, it's a very small business, or you can think it's a very retail kind of business. We have very, very small, preschools, some 3 rooms, 4 rooms, 5 rooms kind of setup. And most of the people come to open preschool are who have very, limited, finances, and they wanted to make some earning out of it. And most of the preschool in the metros runs in rental premises. So it was very difficult for all the preschool people to retain the premises for 2 years without any income. So if I'm not wrong, almost 55% of the preschools are shut down across the country. And in case of me, Vittal, and Pritam, we run chains of preschools. So whatever brand we build over a period of 10 years, 15 years, out of that 30-40% we lost. And now we are running from city to city. Last week, me and Pritam was there in Hyderabad to revive our franchises, to motivate them, to support them, we, all of us gave some waivers in the royalties, supported like anything, and, but again, loss is there. One thing. Now the schools who remain there in the market for last 2 years, who sustained, they have to renovate their premises. But they don't have finances. And no financial institutions come forward to finance the preschool people. So lots of challenges are there. And I believe at least if anything further not goes bad, then at least 2 years will be needed for the preschools who sustain to come to the level what they had before the pandemic. So, and learning losses, if you talk about learning losses are very, very high. And today's problem, major problem is we are not able to find good teachers in the market. Because the teachers what we had in the preschools, most of the teachers come from the family where the husband works in the IT sector or any corporate, and they are going on work from home. So they moved back to their hometowns, or this is the problem. So teachers are not available, center heads are not available, even the sales team is a big problem. So lots of challenges are there which will overcome after maybe a year or so. Thank you, ma'am.
Quite right, Mr. Rathod. Rebooting the infrastructural requirements is the biggest challenge as of now. We were talking about this in the morning, Mr. Pritam and I. If the IT sector or the working group companies do not bring the parents back into the cities, we schools will have to. So unless we start rebooting, having offline classes, we're not going to be able to reboot our classrooms, our schools. Over to you, Mr. Pritam, about what are your thoughts about the children, their learning gaps, which are huge. There's so many kindergarteners I know who've completed kindergarten, never seen their school, never been to their campuses. I'm sure it's the case with all of you. So your thoughts on learning gaps, the effect on the little children over the last 2 years.
A very good morning, everyone. Madam, I'll add to Mr. Artos'
Absolutely, please.
point. See, we are all talking about the loss of the school, the loss of the parent, the loss of the child. Even UNICEF, I'll read it out, some 3 lines. See, they're able to foresee the loss, not for today. This generation of students now risk losing $17 trillion in lifetime earning of the child, which is the current GDP value is around 14%. Even UNICEF has calculated what these children will lose in their lifetime. So it is not that temporary 2 years of loss. It is not that monetary loss. It is not my school loss or a teacher loss. See how they are able to calculate this loss for that student who is too young today. Now come back to my question as learning loss. Madam, it looks like a joke. Pritam, are you talking about a loss? Are you talking about a loss in early childhood? Is it a joke that you are talking about there will be a learning loss to learn ABCD? This is what we are listening in the industry. But trust me, madam, if you all know about that, the early childhood, in the first 5 years, the 80% of the brain develops. And out of 5 years, the child has already lost 2 years. Right? And as Artos sir said, 30% business loss, but 70% student loss. I'll talk about the other way. 70% of the students has not attended the schools in the last 2 years. Let's not think about that playgroup child who was the first to attend the school at 1.5 or 2 years. Think about a child who was about to attend nursery to start his education, and now he'll be going to UKG. The parent, those who have not paid fees for the online education, is now ready to pay fees for the certificate. So where we need to understand learning loss is, I'll tell you one more thing also, which I was thinking about 16 years back when I started this preschool. I'll read these lines also. You all can open your Google, go to Google and find out the importance of early childhood education and click images. Do you know what image you will get? This image. Without a high quality early childhood education, 25% of the students are more likely to drop out from school, 40% more likely to become a teen parent, 50% more likely to be placed in special education, 60% will never attend a college, and 70% will have criminal records. This is the importance of early childhood. And if we have not delivered, I say, I as an early educator in 15 years has failed during this pandemic. Because now nobody has given this ABCD as a value. They all thought about that this is a temporary fever of 3 days and they will take a paracetamol and everything will be ready with the gap of a crash course or a, what you call as bridge course kind of thing. Madam, this is a very long-term cancer, I'll talk about it. This is a chronic diseases which will require another 2, 3, 5, 7 years to bring the child back to the classrooms. Let's not focus, even immediately after the school reopens, trust me, do not focus on education and academics. Let the child come to the school, let him develop the social skill and emotional skill before you go back to academics. Otherwise, how it has happened online, right? Reduce number of hours, more focus and less of attentions, which will definitely take a long-term repercussions for these children also. So ma'am, we have to work on teachers training. We need to work on the more time of social engagement with the child. Then let it take little more time with us. Let's spend more time. Definitely with the time we'll be able to do, but nothing as such as short-term course, bridge course, it will not help.
True. Just like I said, this is a larger pandemic that we are going to be grappling with. And quite rightly, Mr. Pritam, the most effective years in a child's growth is the first 5 years. And all of us educators know that. Teaching of ABCD, like you rightly said, is really not the solution. We need to spend a whole lot of time to build those social skills. The very meaning of education is not the ABCD. It's about the rest of what we contribute to a child's growth and to make him a holistic being. And that is our larger responsibility now. There's a lot of work on that. We will not be able to focus on academics, like you rightly said. We rather focus on building the rest of the skills, making those children emotionally and socially adaptable to their surroundings. They know nothing more than that screen, the 4 walls around in their house, or the 2 adults that have been their parents. They don't know how to interact with children of their age. They don't know how to handle a conflict situation between children. They don't know how to smile and get up and move on. None of this has been taught to them. 2 years has been a huge impact on them. You have something to add, Mr. Rathor and Mr. Bhandary, please.
I wanted to add one more thing, what Pritam said. Lots of teacher training required, yes. Lots of hand-holding of the kids required to bring them into the system, social, emotional development. But I strongly believe lots of counseling of the parents is required.
Absolutely.
Because what I have, the kind of parenting I have seen in last 2 years, I have never seen. Parents are more, focused about their lifestyle and all those things, and they keep aside the education of their children. Exactly. This is the bad shape of the, system of our country. If the parent don't understand, who will understand about their child's life? So I believe all educators, see, everybody sitting here is parent. So everybody need to understand the importance of early childhood education. What I have picked up in my childhood, I retain it today also.
Yes.
Many of the habits, what we picked up in early childhood, that remains with us for, lifelong. So how can anybody ignore the importance of early childhood? This we need to educate the parent, we need to counsel the parent, we need to make them believe in the early childhood education. Yeah.
Absolutely. The whole focus of NEP being on early childhood and the kind of predominance that they've given to it only, establishes our whole, belief in the early childhood education. Just to take off on that, and to give you, we're also looking at solutions as we're going along, and I'm hoping that we have a few from you all too. As a school myself, we've started rolling out series of parent, online again, parent workshops, and it's purely on this topic. Understanding the emotional need of a child, understanding that the ABC of education is only one part of education. There's a whole lot that we need to focus on. And it has to be a combined effort. It cannot be what the school alone can provide. So like he rightly said, Mr. Rathor said, a whole set of counseling, a whole set of mentoring has to be done starting from the family. The family needs to do that. So I would think that in fact, I'm myself going through a course on mental health for children so that I understand the need and understand the areas that we need to focus on, and that's something that I think all of us will have to do. Mr. Bhandary, you had something to add on to this whole topic.
Oh, good morning, everybody. And I think enough is mentioned about the loss, and especially, but I would like to put it in a slightly a little more specific. When it comes to preschool, there are different stakeholders. If I want to put it in a form of a pyramid, the company or a franchisor, because we are into franchising, we sit on the top. And there are challenges, there are a lot of repercussions in all different stage of stakeholders. So, see, like there are a lot of negative things and a lot of things, a lot of loss and suffering. Person in a family, to COVID and losing job or a financial loss and pay cut and all these things, we keep that on one side. So if I want to give my perception from the other side, like as a company, we had challenges. We had a lot of challenges because initially our challenges is to retain our franchisees. We used to talk them, we used to mentor them, we used to motivate them, okay, this is a small phase, it will go in 3-4 months, we will come back in August, when it was the first phase was started. Then later, we were not in a position to give them some kind of a specific answers, because in our wildest dream also we never thought the 2 academic year will go to this pandemic. So that was a set of challenges, and we all knew that online is not a right kind of option, but just to retain some of our franchisees because they have already taken admission, just to give them something is better than nothing, we started exploring. So there are different aspects. See, we have to motivate our franchisees, we have to motivate our teachers through our franchisees to adopt them to a new normal, because that was the biggest challenge we had. And we have trained them different levels, we have trained them in a skill, we upskill them, we have given them, most of our teachers knew Zoom is a channel, like it is basically a Bollywood channel. They didn't know what is Zoom that time. But we have to educate them. A lot of new gadgets came, and we are very happy. Some of our teachers, 50% of our teachers, and they didn't want to continue because they didn't want to be being judged in front of our parents, because that was one of the major things which teachers have gone through, because they were not into these kind of things earlier. But 50% of them we could retain, we could upskill them. Then as a company, our curriculum team has to adopt and make a different kind of a lesson plan to adopt to online. And of course, around 30% of the parents were willing to, just to engage children in online. So that was a challenge. The second challenge was the franchisees. Franchisees gone through a mental, trauma, because see, most of the we have 2 kind of franchisees, because some of you are all entrepreneurs also here. See, we have 2 kind of franchisees. One are already settled. They got fairly good success in preschool industry, mainly. And the second one, who started new, in our, I had around 150 of them. Out of that, some of them are just started with a big hope, big dream, big vision. They have to shut down. The amount of thing, they were crying and they were talking, what will happen, what happened to. We could help them to give us some kind of storage facility to, keep all their stuff for temporarily, and they could come out of their rental premises for some time. And these are all the challenges we have gone through as a whole spectrum of different, stakeholders. But the biggest thing, what I would say, that there are certain learning also. That is a positive side of this. See, most of our teachers who are, they have started adapting it. They have started learning it. Though we have done a lot of workshops, especially introducing them to new tools of online learning, whether it is a whiteboard, whether it is, lot of things were available, continuous workshops to them, and some of them are able to come out of that. So that is one area where, that is a positive side of which happened. But right now it's a challenge for everyone, and it's a huge, kind of, maybe we are hoping everything will be normal. We are hoping, I'm sure nothing will going to change the scenario, next academic year. And the biggest challenge for all my franchisee fraternity, I know they have to restart, they have reached to some kind of optimum, then again they have to restart. That's something, that is a kind of a mental trauma, which all the faculty. But when it comes to the bottom of the pyramid, it's the teachers. So my colleagues, both of them covered on these subjects because the job loss and, but what I would say, especially it is my take, it may be a little personal, my input, it's not necessarily general input, but most of the teachers who are working in preschool, for them it was a second kind of, they were not depending totally on a preschool salary. Though it was complementing them in many ways, but it was nothing. So we gave them an option. See, there is a way you can adopt to a new thing, or maybe we'll have to just let it go. So many of them, they didn't want to get into a new normal. They said, okay, it's okay. It was not a major thing for them because it was a second income. It was a kind of thing. And the bottom was a ayahs and a sub-staff. And especially in our, society, it's very easy to get job for them. It was they never, they maybe stayed out of job for a maximum month or two, but most of them are found some alternative, kind of a thing. That was okay, they were able to. Now, biggest challenge for us to get them back because they were not ready. Teachers are also not ready. Like Mr. Rathor mentioned, they have all gone to their native place. So, they are not coming back. And some of them are taken a different alternative profession because this was not working for 2 years. They started going back to some of the other alternative profession. So those are the things, those are the challenges we have to mitigate. I hope maybe with the help of, things and the positive environment, positive vibes are coming, we are able to get new people into this job, and maybe we are able to train them well. Maybe we are able to accommodate and give new jobs to new kind of a society, who are willing to be a part of preschool income. Preschool fraternity.
Thank you, Mr. Bhandary. Yeah, restaffing is going to be a bit of a challenge now, quite truly. So related to that question, and this is open to any of you on the panel, how do you think the role of a preschool teacher changed from what it was before the pandemic to what it's going to be now when they come back into schools? Yes, Mr. Pritam.
Ma'am, as a management, I'll see there was a annual plan by the management and the teachers for the child. But now they have to narrow down to a quarterly plan, at least for the initial 1 or 2 quarters. Because we really cannot start now for a yearly plan because we are getting a totally different child to the school right now. Different learning gaps are there from different children. There'll be different kids in the class because somebody has attended a preschool, somebody has not attended the online preschool kind of thing. Then as we are all talking about, we'll getting a lot of new teachers. So experienced, non-experienced, trained, untrained also makes a lot of difference. So keeping a short-term goals, finding the learning gaps, and initials, because we don't believe in that kind of assessment, but there will be an assessment before we enter to this classrooms now. Ek to chahiye, because now, as I was talking about, even a writing kind of thing, which is a mandatory for LKG or UKG children, it is way behind in this during this pandemic. So with this part, short-term goals, individual assessment will lead to the plan for the next 2 or 3 quarters.
Yes, I think that's a perfect idea that, you do shorter term plans. Now, can I come back to more specific? What kind of specific teacher training requirements would be required to cater to the learning gaps of students. Not just learning gaps, the emotional gaps, the gaps that are there in our new set of children who come into our schools.
Teachers should be able to understand the emotional connect and the social connectivity more right now. Again, more of experiential learning and practicality has to bring back to the classrooms, because we always, as a preschooler, believe in play method of teaching, right? But I think even we were online, even we were interactive, even it was on a daily interaction, but it was more of theoretical, which was able to give it online. But now more of practicality has to be introduced in the classrooms.
Do you have, yes, Mr. Rathor?
So, as far as training of the teachers is concerned, I believe one specific training how to handle the parents is required at this point of time. Because I have seen the number of admissions what I have never seen in February, March. Though this is the time of admission every year in preschools, but the kind of crowd I see in my branches in February, March, and most of the parents out of them were कि सर 2 महीने के लिए admission चाहिए बस क्योंकि अप्रैल से इसको formal school में जाना है. How can a teacher teach whatever a child need to learn in a complete year in 2 months of the time? So the training of the teachers is required how to convince the parent you should drop your child's 1 year, make him or her learn what he was supposed to learn or she was supposed to learn in complete 1 year's time, then send him or her to formal school. One thing. Second thing, बच्चों को हैंडल करना बड़ा मुश्किल हो गया है, because children were locked in the houses for 2 years, तो socially वो mix up होना भूल गए बच्चे, तो उनको संभालना, उनको समझाना बहुत ज़्यादा जिद्दी हो गए हैं बच्चे. तो ये दोनों ट्रेनिंग बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है टीचर्स को देना कि हाउ टू हैंडल द चाइल्ड इन डिफरेंट सिचुएशन. दिस इज अ डिफरेंट सिचुएशन, दिस इज नॉट अ यूजुअल सिचुएशन, वन थिंग. एंड हाउ टू कन्विंस द पेरेंट आइदर टू ड्रॉप देयर चाइल्ड्स 1 year, keep him or her in the preschool, or talk to the formal schools, because many of the formal schools are sitting here कि अभी जो सेशन है अप्रैल से शुरू ना करके आप जुलाई से शुरू कर लो, 4 महीने हमारे बच्चों को पहले प्ले स्कूल में पढ़ने दो.
Yeah, just wanted to add. See, unfortunately, good percentage of parents doesn't want to accept the learning loss. Yeah, because they are going with the age. They want the child to be in first standard or a UKG, but the learning outcome, learning expectation of each level, they don't want to accept this. See, this is one of the greatest challenge we are going to face as educators. Yes. I'm sure Madam will agree, because she's going to get admissions for a first standard work, completely zero academic skills and skills, right?
True, absolutely. I do have kindergartens too, so I know the challenges that's happening there. Just to go on to, the two biggest challenges are dealing with parents and dealing with children. So teachers will have to be immersed with oodles of patience and oodles of empathy. A good amount of teacher training is absolutely the need there, I understand. Coming from, if I take a stand from a school point of view where I'm starting from grade 1 kind of thing, just want to take your opinion on this. And of course, anybody from the audience, please feel free to interact with us. What do you feel? Is it important to really go through the ABC in the system that we have done? Or should we focus on the child per se, the child's emotional, social well-being? Is that more important at this stage, the next 6 months, or are we going to be cramming the academics down to them? Your thoughts, please, and then of course, audience, please feel free to interact with us. We don't want to be sitting in an island out here. Anybody?
So I think, and I strongly believe, we need to keep a balance of both the things. Because first of all, their social or emotional well-being should be on the top priority, one thing. But at the same time, we need to teach them also, because age-appropriate learning should be there.
Right.
So we need to balance both the things at the same time. Initially, yes, for the first month when the child joined the school, we should not pressurize the child to learn anything. उनको पहले तो समझना पड़ेगा कि मैं घर से बाहर हूँ और मुझे 10 बच्चों के साथ खेलना है, 20 बच्चों के साथ खेलना है, तो that the child need time to adapt the environment what she was not used to for last 2 years.
You know, a very simple example is they don't know how to share because it's not shared with anybody. And in a classroom, you're eternally sharing everything. I think that's quite right. We focus on that. Yes, Mr. Bhandary.
I think initial focus should be adopt them to a kind of a social skills and emotional skills, not on academic skills. You should focus on at least a quarter, for the first quarter or whatever. The child, we should give them an opportunity to mingle because what they missed in the last 2 years, last whatever, and they should come, along with that, they can also get their skills on gross motor, fine motor skills, because these are the skills which are seriously lacking, and we should give more importance, more priority to other skills than academic skills or scholastic skills.
Just a note on the aspect of gross motor skills. I understand about finer motor skills not being touched upon at all while they were at home, especially with the preschoolers. The gross motor skills, there's a boom in that industry which offers dance, etc. Have you noticed online? There's a lot of yoga classes and everything, all adapted for all ages of children and adults and everything. But on the other side, have you also noticed that children have become obese? Children are unable to run those. I guess a lot of us are in the same generation where we ran, say, 100 meters or, walked about few kilometers, and it was all part of our lives. Today, children can't do it. They have just completely lost that kind of physical ability. So apart from working on their mental aspect, we are working on their social aspect, we are working on their emotional aspect. The physical aspect is also something that we have to work on. Preschools typically have very little ground space. But within that, if we can do something for children, they need to lose that kind of lethargy that has come into them while they have been within those four walls, isn't it? Any thoughts there? Audience, I don't get any information or any kind of communication from you. Either we're extremely boring, don't relate to you. Just a minute, yes. We have one question. Can we have somebody with a mic, please? You can have an opinion. There's somebody going, Mr. Bhandary. You can have an opinion, you can give us a suggestion. We're not the best on it all, of course.
Yes, good morning to all. Regarding preschool, because we have preschoolers in our school, I think for the first time homeschooling has come into the picture in India, because years before we were very particular. If the child has finished the course of nursery, then we talk about prep, or class 3, then we talk about class 4, but we are not doing that post-COVID. We are allowing parents to come and approach us. We're doing, depending on the, if it's early years, then it's an observation. We're more particular about the communicative skills of the child and whether the child can handle instructions at age appropriate. And that is more important for taking the child to the next level, rather than having a list of learning outcomes, concepts, check it out for the child. And even at the age of class 3 or class 5, we've taken children who've gone through homeschooling. We allowed them to graduate to the next class. We're not insisting on a TC from another school or formal education. I think this is a paradigm shift in India. It's never happened before, not in our schools, but we are allowing. I think this is what is going to kind of change the face of education. And further to that, I would like to add to the fact that the panelist was talking about. Personal and professional development of teachers is amazingly high right now, because not just schools focusing on it from our end, but the teachers have taken it as their onus to work on themselves, and they've really done amazingly well, and they're able to face the world, I must say, through the screen to teach. And that's added a lot of confidence to the teachers and the teaching community. And technology is here to stay. For years, teacher intervention on the technology side was definitely part of schools, but on the learning side was a question mark. I don't think we engage the learners to use technology to learn, but now it's become part and parcel of their educational system. So we are so glad for certain pros. The cons are there, but we are definitely happy
We
about
look
the
forward.
pros. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think that is absolutely bang on. I'll just take your question. Can somebody move the mic there? Yeah.
Even I have a mic, can I ask?
Yes,
first?
please, yes, please, I'll come to you.
Good morning. Good morning to all panelists. It's a great opportunity to see all the three entrepreneurs on the dais today. And we've been seeing all your schools, and we had children coming from play schools, which you have reared. I have two questions to think and ponder on and take your suggestions on it. Like 10, 15 years back, the main school had their nursery KG. And we used to get children from our school only coming up to grade 1. But over 10 years, we have seen children coming in grade 1, a whole admission list goes on and on. And children are coming from all play schools. So suddenly what happened that in 10 years, we had the need of so many play schools coming and then merging to main school for grade 1. Now, I think pandemic has taught us to look back and start rethink and start fresh that how are we going to bring these preschools back? What kind of curriculum will be there? Not about everybody was teaching something in literacy and numeracy. Was that essential? Or is the curriculum going to change that when they come to us in grade 1, they should be free mind explorers, and they should be thinkers. They should not have any ABCD or anything learned, but social, emotionally strong, very much valued and humble and ready to explore. So I think it's a request maybe from all educationists that when you people are redesigning a curriculum, reopening your schools back, training your teachers back, think on those guidelines that don't teach them literacy and numeracy. We will teach them, but make them strong and confident when they come to us in grade 1.
And adaptable.
Ma'am, we can see the parent pressure from a preschool transition to a school transition. We can only see that. Because I say, if the school stop having the interviews and assessments and this thing, and they admit the first come, first serve basis, all the problems of curriculum, parent, tensions, everything will get solved.
Absolutely. We'll all be in sync in that front. I
Yes.
think that really would help.
That
And-
we
as
will
long
give
as-
a guarantee for that.
Yeah, one more thing. See, in last 20 years, not 10 years, last 20 years, this concept of preschool emerges like anything. And there are two kinds of preschool. One, the standalone one, and another one is the chains, what we represents. So if I talk about any of the chain, not mine, Vittal or Pritam or anybody else, we have a team of experts who work on the curriculum. And I am glad to say the government of India has recognized the work what preschool people are doing. That's why they have accommodated in National Education Policy 2020 the education, what we people are doing, the way we people are doing, that should continue not till grade kindergarten to grade 2. So this is the way what we are teaching, social, emotional, numeracy, what you say, anything. And another thing, I have K-12 schools also, I have preschools also. What we see, if I talk about K-12 school, what K-12 school people see, they interview the children at the age of 5 years. They take test. So when you take test, when you take interviews, then we have to prepare. Preschool people have to prepare for the test and interviews. So where is what is the wrong with the preschool doing numeracy and literacy?
No, I think what Ms. Ritu was trying to drive at is that we should focus on building basic academic skills, but we should also focus on the larger gap so that when they get into normal schools, the grade 1 upwards, they're adaptable, they're malleable, they're able to think for themselves, and they have a better education. I can take one last question. We are running out of time. To the lady who's standing, may I?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, my name is Benisha. I'm from Garden World, and I have 2 kids of my own. which are grown-up kids, and I totally understand the impact of this COVID that has bring in the social, and we need to understand they've forgotten so many skills which they're supposed to learn in their elementary schools. So I feel that it's not only like a quarter or something. I think it has to be at least, because you can just teach them. For students to embed these habits will also take time, and each individual is different. So I feel that we need to give them an open-ended environment for teachers and for students so they can thrive there, they can enhance their abilities and learn the social skills, not by pressurizing them in any way. We need to, as teachers and educators or entrepreneurs, we need to provide them every environment and every skills or things available for us. That's what I think there is, and that was my thought, so I thought I'll just bring out to you.
Thank you so much, Ms.
Yeah, I
Vinita.
totally agreed, and all of us totally agreed what ma'am says. But this parent need to understand, because they are young children. They need time to learn everything.
Yes.
So parents should give them 1 year of the time.
Exactly.
What I said earlier also.
Exactly.
Parents should allow the child and the preschools to focus on their development for next 1 year, then move to the formal school setup.
Thank you so much to my esteemed panel. I know the time was very short. We are just heating up to the whole discussion. I can see that, but of course we have an agenda forward. Before I close, I'll just sum up the whole thing. I think the need of the hour is for schools to preschool or K-12 schools, either way, to focus on the parent angle too, like we discussed. Focus on the teacher enhancement, empowerment angle. Empower them to be able to handle the situation, empower them to handle the parents. These are the kind of segments that we have to work on. With that, I sign off. Thank you so much. I know it's a small audience. We haven't had time. Like I said, we were not heating up as yet to the whole aspect, but I'm certain we have got a few takeaways from the discussions we had. Thank you, Education Today, for giving us the opportunity.
That was indeed a great panel discussion on such an important topic. A big thank you to all the panelists. Can we have Mr. Anil Sharma felicitate the panelists, please? Can we have a round of applause, please? Awards. For the preschool parameter, we have SANFORT World School, Greater Noida. Can we have